A beloved aspect of the Yakuza or Like a Dragon games is the fact that many of these shops and products in-game are actually in real life. It realistically is product placement that's forced down your throat as you're constantly in view of something or you're forced to interact with them, but it really is done in such a charming way that you can't at all be mad, and for many of us, we love seeing these businesses promote themselves in-game. You might already be aware of some of the ones that are actually in the games, but have you ever wondered just how many there are? There are a few websites that list a lot of the products, like various Wikipedia pages, but there's still so much more, and I've never been able to find something that succinctly puts them all together. So that's why I went into every game and looked at all the signs, shops, items, you name it, just so that I could find as many of the real brands, products, and companies that advertise themselves in these actual games. I've been to Japan once, but as an Australian, there are many Japanese companies I've never heard of in my life. So I figured I would start this video by listing some of the more international companies that operate within Australia, or at least some of the ones that I'm aware of. So I'll start with the one I'm most familiar with. Pepsi. As an avid drinker of the sugar-free variant of Pepsi called Pepsi Max down here, I unfortunately have tried the sugar-free Pepsi in Japan, which tastes just absolutely awful. But anyway, PepsiCo also owned Mountain Dew and 7-Up, both of which were only in a couple of games, despite the fact that the big parent company of all of these drinks is featured in almost every game. Now, I'm not sure if this is the case everywhere, but in Japan at least, that parent company that owns Pepsi is called Suntory, who owns Boss Coffee, a pretty famous drink as far as this franchise is concerned, appearing even in main story cutscenes in games like Yakuza 2, Kiwami 2, and Yakuza 5. But to be honest, I only know of Boss Coffee because of these games, which in fairness to me is because I don't drink coffee, but it is indeed a drink you'll struggle to not find in most shops down under. Another famous drink is Red Bull, the energy drink that only recently showed up in Gaiden and Infinite Wealth. And just next to the Red Bull sign in Sotenbori, or a little bit down the road from the ads at the Yokohama train station, are signs for Uber Eats, which we surely all know what that is. Then for some more drinks, there's all of the Asahi-owned brands. Interestingly, there are a few Asahi products that appear in the other games, but Judgment was the only game to essentially replace the Suntory products with Asahi ones, like how there's no Boss Coffee at a Popo, but there is instead Wonder Morning Shot. A lot of these Asahi products I don't think are available in Australia, but Asahi itself definitely is. And speaking of alcohol, it's time to talk about it. Now, I know this will be a shocking statement to hear from an Australian, but I don't drink any alcohol, so I'm incredibly unfamiliar with alcohol, and there's lots of bloody alcohol in these games. There's big parent companies like Suntory and Asahi, as I've mentioned, with Asahi owning Nikka Whiskey, who have that big Tsukimino sign in Yakuza 5, but as far as I'm aware, there's also a lot of more individual brands like Jack Daniels or Beefeaters who are owned by whoever the hell. Regardless, from all the research I've done, I believe all alcohol, besides specifically the sake you get at Popo's, are all real. Even seemingly generic beer from a restaurant is usually some sort of Suntory thing like premium malts draft beer, and what's a bit more obvious is that every drink you get at the proper bars like Earth Angel are also real. So pretend I listed all of them, because honestly it would make the video like 10 minutes longer if I actually did. But now to expand more on Suntory, unlike Asahi, I honestly have never seen anything specifically named Suntory something or other in Australia. But in Japan, things like CC Lemon, Natcha Orange, and a lot of beverages that have the logo on the container or in the name, such as all of their alcohol, are obviously all Suntory drinks. And so as you might guess, all of these are in the games too. But a fun fact about Suntory is that I believe Kenzan, Ishin, and Judgment are the only 3 games that Suntory does not make some sort of appearance in. Suntory is also the only company that has been with the series for its entire lifespan, first appearing in Yakuza 1, and obviously besides those 3 exceptions, is still in Gaiden and Infinite Wealth. And before I move on from drinks, Dominic Versace, something I obviously have never had, is something I have indeed seen before, and I figured it was worth a specific mention because there's a big sign for it next to a taxi in Yakuza 6. Moving on from consumables now, we have AMD, or Advanced Micro Devices apparently. They make computer parts, such as the very CPU I currently have in my computer. Next, there's Anytime Fitness, who appear in Infinite Wealth, which is a big gym chain that I assume is in your country too. Then there's ESP Guitars, who have some signs in Yakuza 0, and I'm pretty sure Kiwami as well. Then there's Isuzu, the car company, or Isuzu, as most Aussies call it. It's in Dead Souls, apparently, so pretend I have footage of that. Another big company is Sony, which you might expect to see given the previous PlayStation exclusivity of the franchise. They have various billboards like the Sony Xperia ones. Kiryu's phone in 6 was a Sony one, and there was also some Walkman product placements in 0, including a usable Walkman DLC in the Japanese version that obviously we did not get. Another Yakuza 0 thing was that apparently Kiryu's watch was a Brera Orologi watch, which is apparently apparently now Brera Milano. I don't know, but at the very least there is a sign for that brand in Yakuza 0. There was also Akiyama's Yakuza 5 watch, which was a Gaga Milano. Similarly, there are also some billboards promoting the watch in the game itself. And finally, while it's not some big noteworthy brand, that dogshit pinball minigame, and specifically the PS4 version of Judgment, is indeed a real game you can really get on like Steam or whatever, but I wouldn't at all recommend you do that. Now, before moving back to Japan, I thought I would quickly list the American brands that are exclusively a part of Infinite Wealth, which, as you may know, is set in Hawaii. The first one I'll bring up are the ABC stores, a Hawaiian convenience store chain. Unlike the parody brand Poppo in the other games, there doesn't appear to be any other real brands 3D modeled into the game, which I'll bring up later. Maybe the t-shirts are real, I don't know, but they sell Aloha Aina coffee, which is very obviously real from the copyright logo. You can also buy Aloha beer drinks from shops to chuck into your inventory. After that, though, is 88 Tees, a clothing company. Not to be confused with 83 Key, the Giga Chad composer, of course. Then there's Matsumoto Shave Ice, who do like snow cones or shaved ice or shave ice, I don't know, whatever it is, they do that stuff. All of these companies, besides Aloha Aina Coffee, had actual real-life collaborations with Infinite Wealth to promote the game, mostly being merch, or in Aloha Beer's case, they just chucked the cover art of the game onto some cans and stuff. Then there's 53 by the Sea, which I believe is the only real restaurant in fake Hawaii, and it actually appears in basically the exact same place in real Hawaii. The building is quite accurately recreated from the real one based off of photos and videos I found online too. Massive missed opportunity to be able to run onto this balcony over here though. This next sponsorship is actually so exclusive that it technically isn't even in any of the games yet. The trolleys that drive around Hawaii in Infinite Wealth are just a generic cheer trolley business with no connection to the real world. But you can see from the RGG Summit that the upcoming 2025 Pirate Yakuza has the actual real life Waikiki trolley in-game. So, unless Waikiki trolley was actually in Infinite Wealth but only in like the Japanese version or something, Waikiki trolley is a real tourism company in Hawaii. Then there's two that I thought deserve some honorable mentions even though they're both fake. Pigeon Family Market in Infinite Wealth is a very clever joke. Again, Poppo is a fake parody brand that's been in every one of these games, but the word Poppo is the sound that pigeons make according to Japan, and obviously over in America they have Pigeon Family Market. You see what they did there? America also has Soleil, or Soleil, which there is actually a real Soleil in Hawaii, although it's just a bakery and not a French restaurant. However, I made sure to bring it up in this video because they still haven't fixed the French cuisine typo. So yeah, there's a typo and it's funny. But now I'll head back to Japan and tell you about some of the more notable, popular, and iconic brands and businesses represented in the game that are very exclusive to, well, not Australia and America at least. Starting with the most iconic one of them all, Don Quijote. I don't know if there's a succinct way to describe Don Quijote besides it being the most essential shop for every person in Japan regardless of how long they're there for. It's a big department store, normally with extremely cramped walkways and usually many massive floors. Unfortunately, the games don't do it the exact justice it deserves because you can buy like basically anything from these places. I wouldn't be surprised if you could even buy a house from one of them. Anything you need, you can probably get at a Don Quijote, which was with these games from Yakuza 1 all the way up to Like a Dragon, where it was replaced with a police station or the battle tower thing. It was even an Ishin of all things and managed to still make its way back in with the Ishin remake last year. And within the Don Quijote stores in-game or Poppos or M stores or whatever, you can pretty much always find Ace Cook products. They make all sorts of instant noodle kind of things, you know, stuff you boil a kettle for. To be honest, I don't know how far-reaching they are because I legit have never seen them in Australia in my life, even in Asian supermarkets. But from Yakuza 3 and onwards, they're in basically every single game as purchasable items, even though Ace Cook's name isn't in any of the text. But their products do always have slightly higher detailed 3D models compared to the fake stuff on the store shelves. Ironically though, because you can destroy all the shelves in a Poppo from Yakuza 6 and onwards, they remove the 3D models of Ace Cook products from the Poppo stores. Another thing within these shops are Imuraya products. Imuraya is a company that makes food, mostly little snacks and desserts like ice cream and ice blocks. And again, I've never seen a real one of their products outside of the games, but in almost all of the games you can buy something from them, as well as them usually having a few billboards dedicated to them. So you may not realize it, but their honestly delicious looking snacks are always there, supporting your journey from the sidelines. And then there's the iconic Gindako Highball Tavern, the place that replaced that fake ice cream shop from the much older games. If you've played Yakuza 5 or any game after, you are almost 100% guaranteed to have healed there at one point or another, mostly thanks to them being in a really good spot, and Gindako is even the only restaurant on the whole entire south half of Yokohama. There's also Kanidoraku, the iconic big crab place in Sotenbori, which is actually real and not just a parody like I kinda thought it was. Believe it or not, they're a crab restaurant. But then there's the one and only Karaoke-kan, or Karaoke-kan, but I'm Australian and we don't speak properly. This business is the place you go to do the karaoke minigame in most of the games. Super cool thing about the one in Kamurocho from Yakuza 6 and onwards is that it is in the exact same place as it is in real life, even looking the exact same too. But then there's also Joy Sound with their software running the various karaoke machines. The UI in-game is even perfectly recreated from the real thing, although in real life you can't exactly fade to white and do some crazy dance sequence. But you know who can sing and dance? Hatsune Miku. I can't think of any games that have her besides Yakuza 5, which had a sculpture of her made of snow, little figurines of her you could get from the weird skill crane thing, and Haruka could dress up as her, and it does indeed look incredibly cursed. Now I don't know the full legal backstory to it, but Sega made a bunch of Hatsune Miku games, and whenever I go to places and look for super cool like Dragon Ball figurines, and I definitely don't go to these places for Hatsune Miku figurines, I always see Sega's name on the boxes of her. So whether or not they own the rights to her or something, I got no idea. But you know who do own the rights to Sega products? Sega. Ever since Yakuza 1, Sega have placed their own arcades within the universe, but surprisingly, Yakuza 5 was the first time they let you play actual Sega arcade games in the Sega arcades with Virtua Fighter 2. So basically, any retro arcade game found within these arcades are Sega-made games, but stuff like Taiko no Tatsujin, which obviously isn't very retro, is actually a Bandai Namco property. Other notable Sega things in the games include various Sonic characters just being on walls or whatever, Sonic music playing in-game like with Yakuza 4, the fourth wall breaking Sega Taiyaki, and billboards of the company Sammy in various places. If you don't know what Sammy is, you've probably heard of Sega Sammy. So yeah, basically that's another advertisement that's essentially cheating. As of Infinite Wealth, however, they have accurately reflected real life by replacing all Sega arcades with Gigo ones, just like what happened a couple of years ago. Even the Taiyaki is now Gigo. And now I could go on for a while about Sega's presence within their own games, but it's basically like if I interrupted the video to put in an ad for my own stuff. And speaking of, this video is sponsored by no one. So you know what? You should like and or subscribe, and if you really want, you can join the channel and become a member and get to spam Kaito's face in my live stream chat like everyone keeps doing whenever I go AFK. Or you can join the higher tier and gain access to some cool videos where I provide lots of insight into my old videos, such as how I made them or fun stories or editing tips or whatever else. Anyway, now that we're done with things you are likely to recognize, it's time to bring up the 100 plus other bloody businesses across all the different games. Some of these you may know of because you've been to Japan and seen them, or you just know about them in-game, but a lot of these are easy to miss billboards hidden in the background of something that do indeed advertise a real product. So because there's so many, I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible, and I'll sort them alphabetically for my own sanity. So starting from the top, we have AGA Skin Clinic in Yakuza 6, a skin clinic I would assume. Alpha Industries, a fashion company who apparently were the ones to make Lee's Parker from Yakuza 0. APA Hotel, a hotel chain, which you might be able to guess from the name, and the fact that one of their ads in-game is straight up a hotel in Yakuza 6. Asada Ame, who make medicines that are emptied and used as crafting materials in the turn-based games. Attack, who make laundry detergents and whatnot, which again are crafting materials. BTV, whatever that thing is in Yakuza 5, it's real, but I don't know exactly what this is. Blue Seal Ice Cream, an American-style ice cream place, is in real-life Okinawa. Calbee, a snack company. Semidine, who make glue that you can also use as crafting materials. The in-game version of the iconic Sotenbori Running Man wall is pretty much one-to-one to the real thing, besides the obvious difference of the drinking man versus the running man. But Chintai, Promisu or Promise, Reiku or Lake are all real things that are on the wall. Now most of the things on the in-game wall are actually real things on the real wall, but I can't read Japanese, so I don't know where any of them are besides the ones I mentioned. Chuka Soba Jumangoku in Onomichi is a real noodle place which is perfectly recreated in Yakuza 6. Club Zoo, a real-life cabaret club. Then there's Curry Shop S, which is and you're never going to believe this, curry shop in real-life Sapporo. D Clinic, a healthcare chain of some description who also make hair care products like Scalp D, which has a sign and can be purchased in Yakuza Like a Dragon. Daisakaba Daruma, or just Daruma in Yakuza 5 is, I believe, an izakaya in real-life Nagoya. Darts Live, the darts minigame, is a real thing. Deku in Yakuza 5 is an internet content provider. Not sure what that means exactly, but they have PPAP on their website. Dave Yu in Like a Dragon is something to do with idols or some shit, I honestly can't tell. DMM.com, a website that seems to sell a bunch of stuff like games and movies and whatever else. Donald Yamada is, or perhaps was, some sort of sexy bar dance club thing. Dwango Co., a telecommunications and media company who have their website in Dead Souls and a QR code that leads to nothing anymore. Edwin, a clothing brand. ES Nail, a nail salon who have their website on a sign in Dead Souls, but that website is apparently gone, but I think they just have a different one now. E-Space Nitaku Pachinko is a real pachinko place. Fukuya, who seem to just sell various packaged food items. Fuyutsuki Group Holdings, I don't know what the hell it is, it's just a group of men that all look a bit fruity. G-Zone, an energy drink that has signs and an item in-game that at least in Lost Judgment and Gaiden will constantly recharge your heat when you drink it, so it's quite good. Gain Garage phone cases. They exist, or perhaps they existed? Not sure, but they did or do phone cases. Gunko Sushi, a sushi restaurant in the real-life version of Sotenbori. Genesix, who I had to use the Wayback Machine to find anything on because they were a Japanese app developer, but they've since been defunct. Gin no Sara, a sushi company that make and deliver sushi. Gumshara, a ramen place. Gree, who have a sign in Dead Souls, which I'm hoping is the same Gree that is an internet media company. Gyoza no Osho, or Gyoza King in game, is a real restaurant chain. Yukaku, a Japanese barbecue chain, which according to my brother is delicious. Hakata Hanamidori, or just Hanamidori in game, which seems to be just a fancy Japanese restaurant in Fukuoka. Hakataso, a ramen place in Fukuoka. Hango Zosui Yama, as the name implies, is a zosui restaurant, which is like a soup or something. I've never had it, so I don't know, but it's also in Fukuoka. Ikinari Steak, a fancy steak place as one might be able to guess. Infomen, who serve the exact same purpose IRL as they do in-game, i.e. telling you about the various nightlife activities and girls and whatever weird shit Japan does. Ishimura, who sell little treats and stuff. Not to be confused with the ship from Dead Space, of course. Izakaya Hanako in Sapporo and Nagoya, which I couldn't find anything on it besides one review that says it's closed now. Japan Tobacco is obviously a tobacco company who produce things like cabin cigarettes or 7 stars, which can be seen in the games. I hate that everyone in these games are chain smokers, it's so dumb. Anyway, next place is Kaburaya, an izakaya restaurant in Nagoya. Kai Group, or just Kai, who make razors, scissors, knives, a lot of bladed tools essentially. Kakigoya in Onomichi, or just Oyster Shack in Yakuza 6 is maybe real. This real place seemed pretty close to the Yakuza 6 variant, but wasn't the exact same, so I'm not completely sure, but it did seem to be very close. Kamatora, which is a beef restaurant, I believe. Kimryu Ramen, a ramen place in Sotenbori, who have the big dragon statue. And now these next few are a bunch of fashion brands that I believe are all available internationally, but I'm putting them here because of how obscure their inclusion is. They also go here in the K section because they're all exclusive to Kuroyo 2, the sequel to the PSP spin-off game. They all have shops with one single outfit each that Tatsuya can wear, and they're all in the ever-elusive SFT village that you can't ever go into in any other game, which is quite cool. The shops, hilariously, are like the Yakuza 5 restaurants in that they have real photos that someone took. These fashion brands are Kix Tio, or however you say it, Nesta Brand, No ID, Vanquish, Black Fleece, and Halusi? Look, I'm as fashionable as James May, so I've never heard of any of these. There's also Dress Camp, who made Tatsuya's original gold and black outfit, which means that that one is across both PSP games. Back to the main games, there's Kushikatsu Daruma with the dogshit music that plays in Sotenbori, and there are Kushikatsu Restaurant, which is deep fried meat and veggie skewers basically. Kushikatsu Dengana, another Kushikatsu restaurant, who had a sign in Like a Dragon. Less Than Human in Kiwami, a brand of super fancy looking glasses who've done a number of collaborations with video games, so I wonder if they ever made some Yakuza Kiwami glasses. Light Tech Inc. They make lighters and candles and other similar things, and I am in awe of how much of a genius I was to check out if they were real, because how the hell was I ever going to tell this sign was anything? Look at it. Lion, a confectionery company that do little sweet treats. Lot Group, who sell various sweet snacks. M. Hold'em, who make mobile phone games, and who also have these bars, or at least this one bar in Meguro in real life, where you can get food or drinks and play poker, much like the one they added in Infinite Wealth. It's run by Sammy, who I mentioned earlier as Sega Sammy. Now all of those magazines that you can view on the shelves in some of the older games, or the named ones you can buy at Poppos and stuff, are all real. I don't know most of them, to be honest, but yeah, there you go, they're real, I think. Maharaja is also real, apparently. Can't give you much more information on that one, sorry. Maruhan Pachinko is another real pachinko place. Matsuo Jingi Sukan, a little barbecue place that does mostly lamb. Matsuya, a beef bowl restaurant, which replaced and then was replaced by the fake Akashimaru. Men's TBC, a fashion brand who have signs in a fair few games. Miyoshino, a Japanese curry restaurant. Moteko publishing company, who are publishers, I guess. I can't tell exactly. Now, there is a real place very similar to Motsunabe Kaide from Fukuoka, but they might not be connected. They have strikingly similar logos though, so either this place isn't real or, and this is very easy for me to do, I just looked up the wrong restaurant or something. Mu Teppo? Teppu restaurant chain. Nadai Fujisoba, a Fujisoba restaurant chain, which just had a sign in Yakuza Kiwami, but every game beyond that, it has a restaurant in Kamurocho. New Era, a fashion brand that does actually exist outside of Japan, but I already wrote up the whole previous section, so it's going to be here. Nico Nico, a video sharing service that IGG themselves still stream on. Nullstone, which looks so real, but genuinely I cannot find anything on it, so I'm not sure if this is real or not. Nozaki's corned beef. Believe it or not, it's corned beef. Okinawaya in Okinawa, which is crazy, I know, is a shop that sells stuff. Seems like everything in the in-game store are all their original products in real life too. Awa Morigura, which is actually across the road from Okinawaya, is an alcohol store, and some of their drinks have some crossover with Okinawaya in real life, so I don't know, they're probably connected somehow. Omosubimura, a restaurant that mostly does little rice ball dishes in Fukuoka. Oragamachi Natto, not sure what the actual brand itself is, but they make natto, which I've been told is delicious. Osaka Osho, or Osaka King, is a restaurant that seems to focus on gyoza in real life Sotenbori. Oyatsuto Yamaneko, or Snacks and Wildcats as Yakuza 6 puts it, and their Otomichi pudding are real. The other thing probably is too, but I'm not sure if that's this company's or not. Paradise City in Korea, which is a real luxury hotel that is indeed in Korea, and that's surprising given you're not in Korea in any of the games, but I guess they would have lots of ads floating around Japan anyway. Phoenix Sigaya Resort, which can be found in Lost Judgment, is a real resort in Miyazaki, Japan. PIA Pachinko is again a real pachinko place. Pine, some sort of confectionery company that sell the pineapple candy at some Popo stores. Pixiv, an art sharing website which has a sign that can be found underground in Yakuza 5. Pizza La, a pizza chain, surprise surprise, which is featured in a popular sub-story from Zero, although it's in many more games than just Zero. Pocket Cafe in Yokohama is fake, but I thought it was worth mentioning the quite obvious rip-off logo of Dotor Coffee's logo, or Dutor, I don't know. Pronto is a real cafe slash bar restaurant chain which is on Nakamichi Street in-game. Quickly Tea and Boba in Yakuza 3 is, guess what, a tea and boba place that's indeed real. Ringer Hut, a restaurant chain that does noodles and stuff. Rising Wave, a fragrance company that has a fair few signs, but you can also buy some deodorant to raise your style in Like a Dragon. Rise Up, or their full name Rise Up Group, is a real company that have a lot of health and fitness related products, but what's most notable are their gyms, one of which appears in Yakuza 6 as a minigame. You may also spot the fact that Rise Up, when said properly, is Rise Up or Rise Up. You see what they did there? Ryoguchiya Korekyo, or something, is some sort of Japanese dessert business, as you can see from the picture of the thingy that I forgot the name of. Ryokishin, I believe a restaurant chain. Safari, a yakiniku restaurant that has a sign in Dead Souls, although I'm not entirely confident about this one. There's some places in Japan called Safari that seem like they might be this one, but honestly this could just be a fake sign that coincidentally seems real. Saron Pasu, or just Salon Pass, is some sort of pharmaceutical band-aid pain relief sort of business. Sam's Maui, a seafood teppanyaki thingy-majingy place in IRL Okinawa. Seiko Mart, a convenience store, and in-game they have a bunch of Seiko Mart branded items. Sekai no Yamachan is a restaurant that seems to specialize in very specific parts of chicken. Shodai Keisuke, a ramen restaurant that I think either doesn't exist anymore or they rebranded or something. Steinway and Sons apparently had a piano in the place you fight Nishiki in Yakuza 1 on the PS2, so I guess so pretend I have footage of that. Stone Market in Okinawa is a real jewelry shop you can buy stuff from in Yakuza 3, and there's also a more obvious sign for it in Yakuza 4. Sumire, a ramen restaurant. Sushi Joto, another sushi delivery business. Sushi Zanmai, guess what, it's a sushi place. And much to my surprise was first in Yakuza 5, then it appeared in a couple of billboards before it became a staple restaurant in Yakuza 6 and onwards. Takumen and their website takumen.com, which I don't know whether it's packaged ramen or they have restaurants you go to, but they sell ramen. Tanning Studio Seoul, you can guess what they probably are. They're actually in quite a number of games, but only as signs. Tatsuya Kawagoe, I guess. He's the chef dude that gives you 2 health bars in Yakuza 5, and there's signs of him from the game, so we'll count whatever the hell he sells as product placement. Tsuruhachi Fugetsu in Sotenbori, which I legit went, oh my god, no way, when I saw it in game, because when I was in real life Sotenbori for a holiday, I saw this restaurant logo, and I took a photo of it because I thought it kind of reminded me of the Yakuza Like a Dragon logo. LOL, I thought. Not realizing it was actually in the games. Udon West, or Uest or Udon, is, as one might guess, an udon place in Fukuoka. Uha, a company that makes sweet snacks. Watami, an izakaya restaurant, or as they call themselves, an eating out business. So to all, like, 2 women watching this, you might be interested in this place. There's also been other branches of the same company like Watamin-chi, but they're all the same thing. Yamamotoya Honten is a real soba noodle restaurant sort of place in Nagoya. Yoneteku in Onomichi is exactly like its real life counterpart in many ways, but the logo is slightly different, so I really don't know if it is actually the real place or if it's a blatant parody or whatever. I'm really not sure. Yoronotaki, an izakaya I believe, which was around for a while but has been replaced as of Infinite Wealth. Yoshinoya, a beef bowl chain which since Lost Judgment has replaced the fake Akashimaru. Zuboraya, the iconic pufferfish restaurant in real life Sotenbori. And then that's all I can find. And the shocking thing is, I know for a fact that it's not all of them. Each time I went into a game to record stuff, thinking I had already written all of these businesses down, I would find more and more every single time. The ones I did miss are most likely only in a single game, or their signs or whatever are poorly placed, but there may also be some in either of the PS2 games, either of the PSP games, or Kenzan. The PS2 and PSP games not having free camera movement outside of combat makes it a little hard to get a proper look at signs and stuff, and with Kenzan it's obviously not in a modern setting and all in Japanese. But fortunately, thanks to Ishin getting an English version, I was able to very recently realize something. I've already mentioned how Don Quixote is in both Ishins, but for the longest time I just assumed it was the only real business in the game. There's definitely no Suntory or Sony or anything like that in Ishin, but much to my surprise, there are 7 food vendors in the game. These are Sushi Zanmai, Nadai Fujisoba, Kamotora, Izakaya Hanako, and Watami, all of which were in at least one other game. But exclusive to Ishin, unless I missed them somewhere, was Hanamaru Udon, an udon place, and Shogoin Yatsuhashi, who make little sweet snacks. In all honesty, if there's more, I have no idea. There doesn't seem to be any real products as inventory items, and the rest of the restaurants are fake. Unless there actually is a place called Creepy Bar in real life. But some interesting things about these businesses in Ishin is first of all that Don Quixote is no longer part of the series as of Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was released in 2020, so I'm quite surprised that a game that released last year, which is admittedly a remake of a 2014 game, still had Don Quixote in it. I'm not sure if there had to be some sort of renewal or anything. It also had a remixed theme of the Don Quixote theme in the original Ishin, but then in the remake it's just some generic music. But the other thing is Izakaya Hanako, which as I said earlier has since been shut down. It reappearing in Yakuza 5 Remastered isn't much of a crazy thing considering it was just a remaster, but surprisingly it's still in the new Ishin. Obviously a company that probably doesn't exist in any capacity anymore can't exactly sue or anything, and of course the Ishin remake wasn't so much a remake as it was a port to Unreal Engine, but it is still surprising that they didn't change it to some sort of fake placeholder. But if you're perhaps curious about finding out what's real and what isn't yourself, there are some obvious indicators that help me find all of these things. The first one is obvious things like a copyright or registered trademark symbol, or if I already knew about them, like Pepsi for example. The second thing is one that's particularly obvious in the Dragon Engine games, but none of the signs, banners, doors, chairs, or any sort of property outside or inside a real business is interactable. So you can't destroy nor use any of their signs, for example. You also can't enter their buildings during combat, and if an enemy is aggro to you and you step inside, they will suddenly lose interest. There is, I believe, only one single exception to that rule, which is that the tables outside of Gindako are destructible for some reason. Another obvious indicator is that if a sign has a website or a phone number with random shapes or X's in them, it's not real. Another thing is that usually any signs that have a floor number on them are fake. There's like 1 or 2 exceptions, but that is usually a clear indicator. Then another one that in some cases is very obvious is the fact that the actual ads are way higher quality than whatever other textures surround them. They also very clearly have predetermined spots where a company's ad can go. So if you spot a sign in one game, you can go to another game as long as it has the same map, like Lost Judgment and Infinite Wealth's version of Ijincho, and find either the same ad or another ad in the exact same position. If you go to one of those, like the many signs and the staircases to the underground on Showa Street, and there's a sort of low-res, fake-looking thing, I believe it's because they actually couldn't get a business to secure a deal with them, so those were left with their placeholders. Or for the games that have had re-releases or various ports over the years, there is also the chance that an ad that was once in-game had to be removed when the game got whatever new version. Over the years, there's been quite a few products that aren't at all in the modern games. For example, Yakuza 3 famously had Gatorade as one of the in-game brands, such as the logo appearing on this bottle Mine drinks, but in the remaster they had to remove it. There was also something like Axe body spray in Yakuza 3's PS3 version. It would require a lot of back and forth double checking, but there is potentially a chance that when something like Yakuza 0 got ported to PC, or when Like a Dragon got its international release, or when one of the other 2 PS3 games got remastered, that they had to remove some things. So all of that goes to show that no matter how long this video may be, there's still a shitload more that I probably couldn't even comprehend covering. But what I did cover was over 150 50 different businesses that are within the Yakuza games. If I were to count each individual product, like all the flavors of Boss Coffee or something, then that number would easily exceed 200, which is absolutely ridiculous. But with all that being said, I'm very glad I made the effort to research all of this. There's a few sites you can find some things listed, like I said at the start, but an overwhelming majority of these products I had to research on my own, because if I asked any of my friends to help me out, they'd probably all tell me to get fucked. Despite how long and difficult this was to research, it was really cool though, and I really do hope you enjoyed learning about all these different things too. I really love how the Yakuza games have always done their product placement. It really is very charming to chuck a little Boss Coffee in your pockets that you can drink at mid-fight and heal like 2 HP. I also really truly do miss the old restaurant photos that were very clearly taken by the developers visiting the real restaurants or getting their hands on real products so that they could put them in the game. It's especially the case in Yakuza 5 where they took photos of the real interiors to save time rather than creating 3D interiors. The super amateurish and dogshit quality photos taken of the real food and drinks from whichever place makes me smile so much, because I know for a fact that some random developer tasked with that would have had so much dumb fun doing it. Unfortunately, now almost all of the photos for food and drinks are professionally done, which some were before, but again, now it's basically all of them. Regardless, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit that subscribe button, which is probably glowing right now, or maybe it was the like button, I don't remember. Like and subscribe. There, look at one of those buttons, they legit glow, I'm serious. And companies that are in the games who somehow have a staff member watching these, please do not sue me for mispronouncing your name or something. Or comment section, don't sue me because I didn't pronounce a name correctly. I don't speak Japanese, I'm sorry, alright? Never in my life have I ever seen a Japanese person get mad at a foreigner for mispronouncing their words, but I've definitely seen foreigners getting mad at foreigners for mispronouncing words that aren't theirs. Nor have I ever in my life gotten mad at Japanese people for mispronouncing English words, because we all fucking talk differently, who cares? Can any of you pronounce my username? Yeah, didn't think so. But you know what we can all very easily pronounce?